This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us for this edition of CBN NewsWatch for Monday, March 25th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Topping the news, after nearly a 2-year investigation into possible ties between the Trump campaign and Russia, the results are in: no collusion. Attorney General William Barr released his principal conclusion of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation Sunday. The president expressed exoneration, repeating the phrase he said for more than a year.
No collusion, no obstruction.
But Democrats, led by House Judiciary Chair Jerry Nadler, are not convinced and want Attorney General Barr to testify now before Congress.
Attorney General Barr, who auditioned for his role with an open memorandum suggesting that the obstruction investigation was unconscionable, made a decision about that evidence in under 48 hours.
Our Amber Strong is following this story for us, and she joins us now from our Washington, D.C. bureau. So it is finally over, or is it, Amber? William Barr concludes?
It's never really over, but William Barr did offer his conclusions, and he looked at two things during the course of this of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report, and that was, the first thing was, did the Trump administration collude with the Russians? And it was a flat-out no, they did not. The second thing he looked at was obstruction of justice, and that's where it gets a little questionable. Barr writes, this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, but it does not exonerate him. But then he goes on to say that he and Rod Rosenstein, the deputy attorney general, did not find sufficient evidence of obstruction.
So what is next for Democrats and Republicans? You know, this feels like we're at another beginning.
Yeah, the Democrats say this is just the beginning. They want more hearings and they want to know more because at the end of the day, they don't trust William Barr. They don't trust that his conclusion is the whole truth. So they want to see the whole report. And Republicans say this is a day of reckoning. They want to go back and look at the media and what role did they play in presenting bias in some of this. And so it'll be very interesting to see as the more and more of the report comes out, how it kind of doesn't bring the nation together, but actually divides it just a little bit more.
It's going to be a long day. Amber Strong, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Texas is pushing forward new legislation that, if passed, will ultimately protect religious freedom. Today, the state Senate will hear about SB 17. The bill would allow the state license holders like attorneys and healthcare professionals and counselors to serve clients based on their religious beliefs without any adverse actions from licensing boards. However, opponents like the National Association of Social Workers Texas says the bill is discriminatory and they plan to voice their opposition at today's hearing. Several Democratic leaders are making it clear they do support Israel and do not support the recent actions of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. At the annual conference of the American Israel Public Affairs Committee in Washington, speakers like House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer hit back at some of the most visible Democrats in Congress, saying that does not represent them all when it comes to Israel. Most of the speakers criticized Omar, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York and Rashida Tlaib of Michigan for their anti-Israeli stance. Hoyer told the audience, yes, we stand with Israel because we stand for America's security. Yes, we stand with Israel because we stand for freedom. Yes, we stand with Israel because we reject bigotry and prejudice. Hamas terrorists fire a rocket on Israel, wounding 7 people and destroying a home. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu cut a visit to Washington short. He was to meet with President Donald Trump and to attend the American Public Affairs Committee on or AIPAC's annual conference. CBN's Chris Mitchell has this story for us.
Just before dawn, a rocket from Gaza slammed into an Israeli home in the community of Mishmeret in central Israel. The rocket destroyed the building and wounded 7 Israelis, including children.
We woke up from the boom. I live nearby, a few streets away. The glass in the windows were shaking and glass shattered in nearby homes. We made phone calls to find out if anybody was injured and how we can help.
Southern Israel around the Gaza Strip has been plagued with rocket attacks for years. But a rocket attack more than 50 miles into the densely populated center of the country takes the conflict to a new level.
Israel will respond with all the necessary means. We're fed up with Hamas. Enough is enough.
Hamas launched 2 rockets at Tel Aviv just 10 days ago, the first since the 2014 war. The Iron Dome intercepted those rockets, and Israel responded by hitting 100 Hamas targets inside Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is in Washington for a meeting with President Trump, talked with the Israeli military and National Security Council.
This was a vicious attack on the state of Israel. We react with might. In the light of the security events, I've decided to cut short my visit in the U.S. In a few hours, I will meet with President Trump, and immediately after that, I will return to Israel to oversee our activities.
Netanyahu canceled his appearance at the annual AIPAC conference. And despite the attack, children in the area were advised that school would be held as normal. Just last week, the UN Human Rights Council condemned Israel for its response to the border riots. Israeli Foreign Ministry spokesman tweeted that this is a deliberate and dangerous act of aggression by Palestinian terrorists, encouraged, no doubt, by the complacency of UN human rights. According to media reports, Hamas leaders told Egypt the rocket was fired by mistake. Hamas has also kicked up the level of violence in its protests along Israel's border with Gaza, ahead of the one-year anniversary of what it calls the Great March of Return. The protesters throw firebombs at soldiers and renewed sending balloons with explosive devices across the border. The noise from nighttime demonstrations is also intended to disturb and frighten Israelis who live near the border. With just 2 weeks until Israeli elections, it's not yet clear how far Israel will go in its response. But it's clear that Hamas is trying to escalate the situation. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
A key road in Mozambique is now open, and more international aid is arriving to help those devastated by the catastrophic flooding caused by a cyclone. Officials say at least 750 people have died due to the natural disaster, and that death toll could exceed 1,000 people. Relief efforts are underway, including setting up some much-needed sanitation facilities to produce clean water for tens of thousands of people. Humanitarian groups are also trying to address the massive need for shelter. CBN's George Thomas recently spoke with Angel Poorman of the ministry Iris Relief about what they are seeing as they are working to help those victims in the flood.
Volunteers from your organization are already there. What can you tell us about what they are seeing?
Thank you, George. First of all, I just want to say that we are so saddened right now at the magnitude as we continue to get new assessments and to see really the devastation that's happening, not only in Mozambique, but the surrounding nations. So I just want to say thank you so much for just being able to be on here, to be able to share even what's happening right now on the ground.
In fact, it's not just, as you mentioned, it's not just Mozambique. We're seeing the incredible pictures here on the screen. It's Zimbabwe, it's Malawi. I was born and raised in the eastern part of Africa. I know this part of the world. There are a lot of relief workers in the area helping. What is the main source of concern for residents there right now?
Well, right now, it's the flooding. Right now, it's being able to save lives. We are just about a week out now, and so the water levels are rising still, and so seconds count, and so it's vital and important. We do have the division of Iris Global, not only with Iris Relief, but we also have our aviation, our cargo plane there, being able to do assessments, be able to see, be able to find those that are still stranded by the waters, and so even as we speak right now, this morning I was getting testimonies of those that have been saved.
And agents, as you mentioned, thousands are still waiting to be rescued or are in fact without a home. What is the Mozambican government doing, and how are they being helped?
Yes, so the Mozambican government has set up in Beira the Instant Command Center. So immediately we were rapidly deployed and right there on the ground to come and just see how we could even leverage and be there to be support for the government. So they are taking aircraft and bringing in other, like you said, agencies to come and assess and help. World Food Program was one of the first ones there on the ground of bringing in food and being able to bring in nourishment, because we know without water and food, people die.
Yeah, in one of these situations, as I've covered humanitarian disasters around the world, water becomes a precious, precious commodity. How can we, Angel, be praying for those affected right now?
Yeah, so right now it's bringing in other agencies. We were just talking to Direct Relief and partnering with them and just being able to be the eyes on the ground to even help bring in medical supplies. Because we know once they're saved, it's bringing in the basic needs and also the medical supplies to be able to save lives physically, emotionally, and being able to holistically be there to serve and give life and express hope.
Okay, terrific. We have to leave it there. Angel Porman with Iris Relief, thank you so much for coming on the show and shedding some light on a story that is not getting a lot of attention in the mainstream media, but glad that you are here to do so. Thank you so much.
Coming up, incredible stories of persecution are bringing together unlikely partners on Capitol Hill. As we go to break, here's a quick look at some of the stories trending right now at CBNNews.com.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Some may find it hard to believe in Washington right now. There's a group of Democrats and Republicans coming together to shine a light on religious persecution around the world. Jennifer Wishon introduces us to one woman who believes the group efforts are making a difference.
Gail Manchin is the wife of Democrat West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin. She's approaching her latest endeavor with families in mind. Families torn apart when a loved one is imprisoned for practicing their faith.
When you see people in other countries that literally are willing to die rather than to renounce what they believe, certainly gives you a different perspective on life.
Manchin began seeing this last spring after joining the U.S. Commission for International Religious Freedom. Were you surprised at what a huge issue this is globally?
Yes, because even though I had, I guess, an awareness, had no idea the extent of abuse and violation for human rights as well as religious beliefs.
Made up of 9 members spanning the ideological spectrum, the commission represents different faiths and traditions. And one of the things that you do is you have a prisoner of conscience program. Tell me about that.
We found that if you can put a face to an issue, how much more, it resounds with the public and people get the message better.
Case in point, Andrew Brunson, the pastor recently freed after spending 2 years in a Turkish prison. A commissioner adopted Brunson, visited him while captive, and applied pressure on Turkey to release him.
Tell me about the folks you've adopted.
Both are from Iran. Mr. Taheri is a writer. He had been taken from prison, was retried and put on death row. And then just recently was taken back out and taken off death row, but his sentence has been extended for 5 more years. Do we hope that perhaps him being a prisoner of conscience helped raise the awareness and took him off death row? We don't know, but we certainly hope so. My other prisoner is a woman, Golrock Irahe. She was writing about the injustice of women being stoned for committing adultery. And for that, she was arrested for breaking Islamic sanctities. Her writings were not even published. They came into her home and confiscated writings and found this and used that against her.
Manchin has learned from Irahi's sister that this attention from America makes a difference.
What I have found in serving on this commission and traveling to other countries, they care about what the United States thinks of them. And the fact that we bring out these violations and discriminations, gives them pause, I believe.
But it takes patience. 9 prisoners of conscience have been released, yet the overall situation grows more serious with each passing day.
It is a commitment and dedication to a large issue, a global issue that is not getting better, unfortunately. It seems like that in many of the countries that we are watching, the conditions are deteriorating, not getting better, and so we cannot let up.
The U.S. promotes religious freedom around the world because countries that allow its people to worship freely tend to be friendly neighbors. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
And there's lots more still ahead on this edition of CBN NewsWatch. We're taking a look at as you get ready for your taxes. Stay with us.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
10 seconds. Political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation. Tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
Tax refunds are actually up this year, despite early reports saying they're down. Our George Thomas recently spoke with a financial expert, Dan Pilla, about what your tax return means and what's best for keeping more of your money all year long.
Many Americans are receiving smaller federal tax refunds in 2019 compared to last year. Well, that has led some taxpayers to complain that they've paid more taxes in income taxes than last year. But is that true? Tax expert Dan Pilla joins us now with more. So are tax refunds a good gauge of how much you paid in taxes?
No, it doesn't tell us anything. I mean, the tax refund simply tells you how much you overpaid in your taxes. That's all it is. It doesn't mean the government got religion and decided to give you free money. Sure. Right? You just paid too much to begin with. It's not a measure of what your underlying tax liability is, because there's a couple of factors. Number one, obviously, is your underlying tax liability is a factor, but more important is how much money was withheld from your paychecks to begin with. And this is what they're not talking about, is there was less money withheld during 2018 because the IRS changed the withholding tables on January 1st of 2018 to reflect the fact that 80% of the people in America are going to have a smaller tax liability for 2018 than they did for the previous year, 2017. Yeah. So that's what's going on. There's less money taken out to begin with.
You know, many Americans rely on their tax refund to pay for necessities because they don't have savings, and we've seen the numbers and the research. What's your advice to them?
Well, the advice is that the tax refund process is the world's worst way to save money. All right, listen, the typical tax refund is about $3,000. This year, it's actually the numbers now. The most recent numbers indicate that the tax refunds are up a little higher now. Because when those original numbers came out, this was like 5 weeks ago, and there was less than 20 million tax returns that were filed, and so it was a very small sample size. Now we've got over 50 million tax returns that are filed, about 1/3 of all the returns that are going to be filed, and so now we know that the tax refunds are actually up this year compared to last year. But even so, it's the world's worst way to save money. All right? Because what's happening is you're paying almost $300 a month in and month out, in taxes you don't owe. The IRS holds that money for over a year. You got to wait to file your tax return to get the money back, and then they don't pay a nickel's worth of interest. So it's the worst way to save any money.
You know, many Americans got more in their paychecks back in 2018 because of President Trump's Tax Cut and Jobs Act. Isn't that right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is touted by the left as tax cuts for the rich. It's absolute nonsense. It's total nonsense. The fact of the matter is that 80% of all taxpayers, the lowest 80% of income earners, are going to receive a tax cut, and because of that, they adjusted the withholding tables in 2018 to take less money out of your check to begin with.
So whatever happened to the idea that all Americans could just fill out their tax returns, their taxes, on a postcard size? What happened?
Well, of course, they were talking about creating a postcard-sized tax return, but that didn't happen. What they did is they took the 1040 form, and they took 79 lines off the 1040 form, and they spread them out over 6 different schedules. So now the 1040 itself is short enough. You know, that's 15, 20 lines, whatever it is, name, address, that stuff. But all the rest of the information that you still have to provide now has to be provided in 6 different schedules that gets you taxed. So it's just
sneaky.
It's disingenuous. It really is disingenuous.
Okay, terrific. Dan, always thank you so much for coming and straightening out all of this mess. Appreciate it. By the way, if you want more resources from Dan, you can go to his website, including his book, How to Win Your IRS Tax Audit. Just go to cbnnews.com for those links. Dan, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, George.
You're welcome.
Coming up, a date night that little girls dream of, and one family-friendly restaurant helping that dream to come true. Stay with us.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
Daddy-daughter date nights are something special for little girls with the first love of their life. Many Chick-fil-A restaurants love this idea so much, they're hosting the date nights with themes like ties and tiaras. They take reservations, they decorate the tables with tablecloths, flowers, balloons, a special menu, and even other surprises. The Chick-fil-A website says check with your local store to find out when they'll be holding their special date nights dedicated to the special bond between fathers and their daughters. Well, time now for your Monday motivation. And today I leave you with this thought. We all know faith without works is dead. But there are moments we all need to put a pause on that work and ask ourselves this. Do you need to try harder, or do you need to trust God more? Your work is not a replacement for full faith in God. With that word, trust God and make this Monday a marvelous Monday. That will do it for this first edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can get more on the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. And you can watch CBN News programs anytime throughout the day on the CBN News channel. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you right back here next time. Goodbye. God bless.